Hi, my name is Mike, and today I'm going to be talking about upgrading my network to 10 gigabit. So I've been looking for years now at upgrading to 10 gigabit, and only in the last year or so have prices come down enough to make it worthwhile. There are a few different things that you need to consider when you're upgrading to 10 gigabit. First, you need to have hosts that actually have 10 gigabit cards in them and can talk to each other at that speed. If you don't have that, then what's the point in putting a 10 gigabit network in to begin with? The second thing you need is a switch that can handle 10 gigabit, that can manage that traffic. And the third thing you need is the cabling that supports those speeds. And so if you have those three, then you have a 10 gigabit network. But for me, I only had one or two hosts that were on 10 gigabit up until recently, when I purchased the Mac Mini to use as my development machine, and that has 10 gigabit in it. So then, after I did that, I determined, okay, there's a really good incentive for me to get, since that can support 10 gigabit and the NAS down here can support 10 gigabit, and I really want to have a fast link between those two. And so I decided, you know what, let's look into what it would take to make this happen. So first, looking at the hosts, the other hosts on the network, there were a few different machines that I wanted to have on 10 gigabit. First, like I said, the Mac Mini's already there. Second was, I have a Mac Pro up there that does not have 10 gigabit built in. It has two 1 gigabit ports. But I was able to purchase a Thunderbolt 2 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter. And so that was able to get on 10 gigabit, and I'll link to that below. The other host that I wanted to have on 10 gigabit is, like I said before, the NAS, that I have my primary NAS, and then I have a couple of servers down here that are mounting off of that NAS as well, and I want those to be able to talk at 10 gigabit. So bringing those online, I actually had to go the PCI card route. And the cheapest way to do that is to buy Mellanox. Well, I did Mellanox. There's other ones online, but you just go on eBay and search for like a Mellanox Connect. I think it's a Connect X T2 or something along those lines. And they make the T3 and T4s now, which are a little bit better as far as efficiency, and they're a little bit faster too. But I got the T2s and it was about 30 bucks a pop, buying it used off eBay. And they've worked perfectly fine. So I put those into the Dell servers I have down here. I had the Mac Mini on there. I have the NAS on there, and the Mac Pro. And so everything, all the hosts are ready to go. The second thing I needed was a switch, and I really wanted to stick with the 10 G-base T ports, the standard Cat 6, because that's what I was used to, and that's what any kind of wiring that I have was already using that. But I still needed a couple of ports using the SFP Plus, because those will go for the cards that are in the servers here. And so I needed a switch that had both, but was mostly the Cat 6 style connection. So this switch actually fit the bill really well. This is a Netgear XS712T. And one, it's really nice because it's a 12-port switch. It gives me room to grow. Two, it's a smart switch. And so it lets me do it's like a level 2 plus style. It lets me do VLANs. It lets me do things like static routes, and it supports things like SNMP monitoring and so forth. And so it was really, those features I really thought were nice to have over an unmanaged switch. You can definitely save some of the expense though, and go with an unmanaged switch if you want to go that way. QNAP has a couple of unmanaged switches that are quite a bit cheaper, and so those are definitely worth a look if you want to go that route. But Netgear, they have the 12 port, they have an 8 port, and they even have a 5 port. The 5 port I don't think has any of the the SFP plus ports, combo ports though, if I'm remembering correctly. The 8-port and the 12 both had the 2 combo ports, which is what I was looking for. The reason I went for the 12 though is not because I need it right now, but because I was looking out for the future. 10 gigabit switches are still pretty expensive, and I know that they'll be coming down in price, but I didn't want to buy something now and grow out of it in a few years from now and have to buy something all over again. And so I determined, you know what, with 12 ports, especially when I have other things on a 1 gigabit network still, this will last me for quite some time. So yeah, my current setup is that I have the desktops upstairs. I have the 2 NASs that I have. I have the primary NAS and a backup NAS plugged in on the faster network. The backup does not have 10 gigabit yet. That doesn't have an option for 10 gigabit. And so eventually, when I upgrade that system, I'll get something that supports 10. And then I have the 2 servers that are in the rack as well hooked up to it. And then beyond that, I still have the 1 gigabit network with my older switch, and I have the same Zywall firewall that I had before. One thing I've noticed is that the Zywall will route up to 1 gigabit, but it does stress the CPU quite a bit. If I'm transferring a lot of data between the 1 gigabit network and the 10 gigabit network, it will stress the CPU and the Zywall. And so since this switch supports VLANs and static routing, I'm thinking about switching it so that the switch is handling the routing between the 2 subnets, and this just goes back to being just a straight firewall to the outside. And so I'm considering doing that at some point. I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet, but the nice thing is I have that option going forward. As far as the Cat6 cabling is concerned, my patch panel is Cat6. A lot of the cables here are Cat6, but I had a couple of lines going upstairs that were only Cat5e, and so I was really kind of concerned that maybe those wouldn't negotiate at 10 gigabit. And fortunately, I had no problem with it. I plugged it in and upstairs, and it negotiated a full 10 gigabit link and worked the first time, and so I was really happy to see that. The length of the cable is probably, I don't know, maybe 20 feet. So it really was a short run, but I mean, if that's all you have, if you have shorter runs using older cable, give it a shot. You might not have to rerun Cat6 or Cat7. So it's worth a shot at least to see if it'll work. Anyway, yeah, that's been my experience. It's really, the network speed is just amazing. I'm able to transfer at the speed of the hard drives in the NAS. And so I really, it's as if I had this direct connected as direct storage to my Macs upstairs, which is great. So I can host my photos and videos on the NAS and use them in Lightroom upstairs without any lag or anything like that. So it's been great in that respect. And really well worth all the investment in the system. So if you're thinking about it, go for it. Thanks for watching this time, and I'll see you in the next one.